Hello.
Hi.
Oh my God! Welcome back, RJ. This is so fancy.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
This is
Mama
live.
Slay.
Oh my God! What are you in the? You're in the.
I'm in the booth.
You're in the
You
booth.
know,
Yes, honey.
producer Nim. Hi.
Cute. Sound cue 4. Go.
And go.
And
Stand
go.
by.
Stand by.
Stand by. Mm-hmm.
Go.
Welcome back to another
Hi.
episode of Boys Love Iland, where we have another boy with us shouting out, loving Iland.
Woo!
Our friend Nate is
Hi,
back.
friend.
Is back. We said that Nate was gonna come back for part 2, and so we said, okay, it's part 2.
No, we didn't say this. We did not say this on recording. No, here's what happened.
No, like
The three of us.
Yes,
But
we.
what really happened was
The fans were like,
they ate that episode up, honey.
I
They
know.
said, finally someone with
Finally.
sense.
finally,
Thank God.
finally,
I feel loved. I feel so loved. And
finally,
thank you, everybody.
someone older that can like, that
Yes.
can give us
Yes.
guidance.
Oh, you make us look so young, Nate.
I'm an Iland hag. I feel so bad.
The oldest eggy.
Yes, I'm one of the elder Eggies. Correct. Yeah.
So we're so excited to have you back. And then
Thank you.
when we were talking about what episode in part 2, you know, I didn't want to make you sit through the whole 6.5 hour finale.
Oh,
And say that.
and say that.
And say that Zoom or whatever. So we were like, what episode? And so you said, I think episode 11 is the girl to talk about.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think you're right. After watching it, I think you're absolutely right that we are going to have much to discuss.
I do want to ask
So
Nate,
nervous.
since we haven't talked to you since we got into part 2,
Yeah.
if you would have written a letter or a video to someone.
Oh, yes. If
Who
you
would
would
you
have
have done?
submitted a letter or video, who would it have been to? Would it have been to Jake?
Of course, it would have been to Jay. Jay's my bias.
Jay, yeah.
And as you guys were talking about in the last couple of episodes, like, I think that the show really sets up Jay to be like a huge protagonist,
Oh, totally.
especially with his arc as a leader and all that kind of stuff. But I think that I would have sent a video to Jay for sure.
Oh,
Be like,
for sure.
my Pacific Northwest brethren.
Yes, yes. And he's from Seattle. I share a kindredness with him.
Yes. We
Yeah.
love the woods. So this episode starts, and Jay and Hanbin are very happy about their placements. Jay
Yes.
is 3rd, Hanbin is 4th. This
We
is the-
were gagged. The girls were gagged.
the
Were you
highest they've
gagged?
been.
Was that a gag?
Yes, a little bit, because the before the episode, they always put out midterm evaluations, and Jay was starting to sink in the numbers. So a lot of us bluebirds, or was it jaybirds? I can't even remember anymore. But we were really concerned about Jay's scores. Blue Jays. Oh, edit all that out. I'm gonna look like such a fake stan.
He actually really hates enhypen. That's the secret.
For Hanbin, it wasn't a shock that he had jumped up, because the viewers at the time love Hanbin. And I used to be a member of the mnet Iland Reddit account. And one of our friends would do a weekly poll.
Yes.
And almost everybody was voting for Hanbin. And one of the data points that I wanted to mention during the podcast today was like over 70% of Reddit voters said that Hanbin was their one pick.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a huge deal. And so I wasn't surprised that Hanbin had creeped up in the numbers. I was more shocked that Jay before this episode was ranked low. So I think that sometimes if mnet were to have manipulated numbers, it was in the showing of midterm evaluation scores.
To get girls up.
Exactly, that panic voting.
Would
Yeah.
they show, was it like Boys Planet
like
where
Boys
they would
Planet.
show like 3 or 4 people, or would they show everybody's midterms?
Oh, they would show everybody for Iland.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that was always something that annoyed RJ and I about Boys Planet, is they would pick and choose who they wanted to show. So like when they showed Gyuvin out of the top 9, it was very clearly so people would vote Gyuvin back in. Which,
Very
like,
much.
thank God, but Yeah.
But I at that point, well, when you have 99 contestants, you have to be a little bit more blatant about how you're trying to fix the voting. But I don't know if the corruption ran as deep as some folks thought it did. So.
And say that, King.
On the other end of the spectrum, Jungwon and Niki.
Wild.
Not feeling great. It's not good. It sucks seeing this as someone who knows them first and foremost as enhypen,
right?
Because I was like, ooh, I don't like to see them even like.
I
wanted to watch all 7 of them just coast right to the finale.
Exactly.
And it does suck that there are points where it's like, I mean, they do obviously get there. I know I live in the real world, but I'm like, oh, I'm sad that you had to go through any kind of like frustration on that journey at all.
Right. Yeah.
But at the same time, I think if they hadn't had some of those moments that, like, I think Jungwon's moment in this episode really makes him so. It's the first time you really see like vulnerability from him, and it is so relatable.
Yeah.
So relatable, and we hadn't seen a lot of that part of Jungwon in the show. He was always like very strong, and was always touted as like the second ace of the show, behind Heesung. And so to see Jungwon portrayed in any kind of like. And the other thing is, like, he's really young. I think in Iland he was 16.
He was 16,
Yes.
yeah.
So, of course, he's going to be a little bit worried about these kind of things. Like, who wouldn't at that age? So,
and that's why it's almost more impressive when I think about it, how kind of calm, cool, and collected he's been all show, because he is so young that you would think like someone who is that young would be able to fall apart more easily. But he's really been just
he's
kind
our
of like
stable king.
Yeah, just solid.
Yeah.
So Sunoo, as being number 1 from the global vote, he gets to choose who is leaving Flame On, the Fantastic Four song, and joining
Chamber 5.
Chamber 5 of not.
How did you guys feel about that? Because honestly, I knew you girlies were going to be like so excited.
If Sunoo picked Hanbin, I think Hanbin would have been safe. I think they would have. I think they would have not been so hard on his lack of playing hard for the concept.
Okay, yeah.
That I think they would have judged, that they would have seen him in a better light. But I do think it was very smart to choose Sunghoon, because
so strategic.
or the fact that they were in Pretty You together. And like already basically broke the ice that way.
Yep.
He knew that it was like, I don't think this is actually going to be a problem for him. I mean, he said it. He's like, he's going to pick up in 5 days. He's the one that I'm not worried about, that can do the concept and can pick this up in 5 days.
That is why I think he didn't choose Hanbin, because he flashed back to that the dance challenge when they subbed Hanbin out for
Niki.
No.
Oh,
Jiho?
yes.
Who did they sub him out for?
I don't remember the ground names.
Anyway, whatever his name was in ground.
And there's not even 99 in the show.
No.
When they subbed out Miss Girl
who only
who
had that one episode where she got to speak.
Yes, and it was it was the Nate episode too. We talked about her.
I think that's what he flashed back to, and he was worried that Hanbin wouldn't pick up the choreo.
Yeah,
and I think he probably could have, because I don't think the choreography not nearly as intense as Flame On's.
Chamber 5 was the fan favorite, though, of the two.
Fan favorite.
Yes, fan favorite.
And there were so many fans that were calling for like an official recording of Chamber 5 because pre-debut they did a recording of it in like fruit costumes.
Oh yeah. This is how I know this song.
Yeah,
this is how I know this song.
Yeah.
Wait,
of enhypen
or the
enhypen. It's Sunoo in the Peach.
Yes, that's it.
That's the song. Okay, that is so funny, because I have obviously watched that video. I'm not a clown. If you're gonna put 7 of my favorite boys in fruit costumes, of course you'll be watching the damn video.
And fans really wanted it. Fans wanted it over Flickr. So
I think Flickr fits more the way they were taking enhypen. I think they could release it now and it would be fine.
Oh yeah.
But it's that vulnerable part of like right around debut where they really have to solidify like what is our angle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and
what's the brand
itself is so concerned about
because
the brand.
The debut has to stand out.
Yes.
Right. Because if it doesn't, then you flop.
If it doesn't,
If you don't, if it doesn't, you flop, and there's 100 other groups debuting the same year.
Yes.
I felt good about Sunghoon being picked.
I did too. I knew that he was going to flourish in it. Because like
and he acted all like he wouldn't. Like,
I know. It's just
they definitely play it up. It's
5 days to learn choreography. Oh my God, so hard.
Yeah, tough. Real tough.
But it was genuinely the most fun I've ever seen him have in this entire show. Like, he enjoyed the process so much.
Sunoo did that. Sunoo did that.
Yeah.
And remember that first moment where when Sunoo moved into Iland and he was like, you're going to think I'm cuter.
Yes. Who did he say was cute? He said Jake was cute, right?
He said Jake's cute.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're going to think I'm cuter. See? and thumbs up on that. Okay? Maybe there isn't. Maybe it's not motion control. I think it's just listening.
Our FBI agent is like, I agree.
Slay.
I watched Iland too, girl.
Iland as well.
So Sunghoon had been the leader of
So this, I forgot that this happened. So when they brought it up, I was like, oh.
Right. You have to watch the last 10, 15, 20 minutes of the episode going into the other.
Mm-hmm.
I put 2 hours aside all the time.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Yeah. You got to.
So that he had been the leader of Flameon, so now he's out. So now Flameon's leader, Kay, has decided to step back up, even though he was like reticent to do so. He didn't really want to.
No.
The huge K villain arc, you know?
This is the redemption arc.
Absolutely.
This episode, Kay's redemption arc is crazy. And it's very well deserved, but wild to see happen.
This, you know what this is? This is Raja O'Hara coming back to All Stars and being like, I watched myself. I saw how angry I was. I learned, and now I'm just, and then like flourishing, and then winning Canada versus the world. Like,
boom.
Very much like Raja O'Hara, because Kate doesn't win this one, but wins
wins
debuts in the next one.
Clout. Yeah,
Kate is the Raja O'Hara of K-pop.
We've always said that.
Put that on a sticker, you know?
Yeah.
Put that on a sticker. Put it on a shirt.
Daniel is sleeping alone because he's 10th.
He's 10th.
And they haven't moved the beds, even though you they could have moved one bed into like...
They could have removed Ganu's bed. Like this
Can I tell you something? I cried. Watch the episode.
It's
not this recent time, but like I held it in this time. But when I watched it originally, I wept. I was like,
knowing that like Daniel's alone in that room.
Yeah, this poor boy's in this room alone, and
the youngest. Put the youngest kid in his own room. It was funny when he played the radio and like the sad song played, and he was like, "Why is it so sad?
What? Turn the channel.
Shut off." There is this really funny moment with Sunoo and Heesung where they read their letters from Jay in front of Jay.
If you didn't love Jay already from the last two episodes, it didn't stop.
It was an instant love fest for me. I was instant love. Truly,
the Jay thing just keeps going every single episode, and it's crazy because even here, when obviously they're like, you were so dramatic, you wrote us these letters, so now we're gonna read it in front of you, and his reactions of just like, stop, please stop, like,
it's so good.
It's so good. And so genuine. He can't make that up. He's like, why would I? This is so embarrassing.
And the way that Sunoo was reading it to him was really what was making him embarrassed. He's
Absolutely.
Like, why are you reading that like that? And Sunoo's like,
It's so funny. There's also a moment in this episode. The Jay thing, I just was not expecting from this show. So it tickles me to no end.
Yeah.
The other thing that happens in this episode is when they're like getting ready to go out.
Yes.
He's like doing vocal trills.
Yes.
And looks insane. And I was like, you 4 episodes ago were like, I just have to be the coolest person here.
Right.
And at no point have you been the coolest person here.
And I don't think that he ever truly will be as cool as he wants to be.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's why I love him.
Yeah, it's great. It's so endearing without, and it really is, I know I said this last week, but it really does feel like it's really never forced.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel like he's like putting on airs to do this for the camera or anything.
Yeah.
He's just so kind of like there is like, I think, the like American part of him that's kind of like do it first without thinking, even though I think he is a very thoughtful person.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think
He just goes for it.
He just goes.
It's a
for it.
cultural thing for sure.
Yeah.
And you'll see that both with Jay and Jake and Daniel on occasion when they show him.
Yeah.
Like you'll see that cultural difference.
Talked about Sung-hoon trying to learn how to be cute. It's very funny. He's like losing his mind.
He is like loopy all over this house. He is running. He goes to the kitchen. He sees their pork slices, and he's just like, pork like he's
screaming,
losing his mind.
Yeah,
he's laughing. He's messing. He's making his own lyrics. Like he is just. This is the part where I was like, he's just having so much fun, and it's
and heesung is like, where did the aliens take you? Like, where's my Sung-hoon?
Yeah,
it is funny because I think watching the show, Sung-hoon, I think the highest he placed was third or fourth. But I feel like the whole show, I obviously am watching a show in which I know the outcome.
Yeah,
but it really does feel like him and heesung are the two locked in to this group. Like they're almost the way they're editing is like, I know heesung, this is like heesung's like lowest point in the show, in which he's fourth. Which shut the fuck up. But like the way the show is edited, it's almost like it's like saying like, oh, we're just trying to find the other 5 members to be with these 2 guys.
Yeah.
And I think that is generally, they're looking at the data being like, the votes for them are crazy, even though they're not winning in every category, right? Because like Sunoo keeps getting first when they go to the global votes.
Yeah.
I think there's just like an assumption that like there's nothing they're gonna do that is gonna like turn the audience off of them.
Well, and I think that that's important to address. Like, I think that, you know, obviously CJE&M is a company that is looking for a group that's cohesive and has what they want. And I think that, you know, BigHit was on board with that too. I think that the partnership between CJ and BigHit at the time was a little bit strained. And some of the conversations that were happening in the mnet Iland Reddit subreddit was like, because it's like a 52-48 CJ BigHit partnership, perhaps the kind of compromise between the groups was like, okay, let's have the audience choose 6, and then we reserve the right to choose 1, which is what happens at the end. Right. That there's 6 members chosen by popular vote, and then 1 that's chosen by producers. So I love talking and speculating about the production of Iland because I'm a huge Big Brother fan. And we talked about it a lot on our podcast too, but it was like, to what degree were CJE&M and BigHit involved in maybe, you know, choosing who to show and what numbers to fudge and which ones to show and which ones to not? I don't think that it was extremely deep in any kind of manipulation, because like there were actually votes that were casted, and it was all done through Weverse instead of, you know, some third-party app. But I'm very curious to know what the details are.
I'm curious. Yeah, I'm curious more in the like, even before that, what is the original contract that was drawn up between the two in order to get the show produced? Like,
for sure,
because every game show, and I use that term loosely, has like a legal set of rules that they have to follow. Like, that's why it's like crazy when there's an episode of Drag Race where Rue is like it's like in the All Stars where I think if the lip that one if there was a tie in the lip sync votes, then it goes to the other person who the top queen will still decide. Right.
Yeah.
I definitely think obviously the easiest way to skew the outcome you want is to show screen time.
Oh yeah. For sure. That's the one that's their creative out. Yeah. That's their creative out. They can do that.
Right. And I don't really even fault them for that either, because I think you're also not, it's hard to manufacture screen time for people who aren't like, Jay is giving them so much
material that they have
to work
show
with
it.
that it's like it would be foolish
he's
to
not
leave it on
giving them the
cutting room
chance.
floor.
Yes, yeah.
The thing with Hanbin
and like Daniel
is I think generally when they have global non-Korean trainees is it's always like there is the language thing, and I don't just mean that in terms of like they don't know Korean, but there's a comfortability that one has with just being able to like riff and like do stuff like that, and when you're good at it, you're good at it. So that's why it's almost like, to go back to ZB1, it's almost like more impressive that Ricky got in the group, because it's still clear that he is not fully 100% fluent and like
and
solid.
He's even said that like in fan calls of like, because I wasn't as fluent in Korean during Boys Planet, I felt like my sense of humor wasn't coming off.
Right.
So like it really wasn't until they debuted where people got to see his like goofy personality.
Right.
Yeah. I'm very curious to see what you guys think about the finale when you guys watch it, because the numbers shift wildly. And there's a lot of controversy around that as well.
Interesting. Can't wait for the 6.5 hour finale episode.
And some of us watched it at 3 a.m. Pacific. So,
and then it was over at noon.
Yeah, we had brunch actually after we watched. We went out to brunch at our favorite place.
First of all, no, what is it called? Flame On. I just write down FO. Flame On.
First out.
FIFO.
First in, first out. The one I found interesting in this moment is Niki has this like kind of long bit where he is saying like he hasn't been in the top. He's never had the badge. They're clearly setting him up for what happens at the end of the episode. It's very clear. But he talks about how he's like, he's not doing well. He was convinced in the last elimination that he was going. Yeah. He was like, Daniel and Taki have so many more global votes than I do. They're way more popular than I am. I'm ready. This is it. This is my last chance. I do think it's wild for like somebody who's 14 to be like, I think this is my last shot.
Yeah.
I think after this,
I understand that he has been technically like in the industry in some capacity for like multiple years at this point.
Yeah.
But you sound crazy when you like remove yourself for a second.
He's that serious.
I think I want to say one thing about Niki. I think one of his difficulties in the show that I find really interesting is I think he of everyone had the hardest time connecting his like facial expressions to his fans, because obviously he's so good at it. And I think it's because he was a backup dancer for so long,
right? That like, he didn't have to.
You're not supposed to. You're not to pull focus in that way.
Yeah.
So he like can't get out of that mode. His body is so incredible to watch move. But there is like at some point, he's gotten so much better from the beginning of the show.
Totally.
Yes.
But there is like sometimes a disconnect where you can see like, and he in enhypen, he's so good now. Like it's so cohesive now. It's very like Melinda Doolittle.
It's very Melinda Doolittle, American Idol.
Ooh.
Season 6.
Yeah.
You're so right.
Where she's like, I've been a backup singer my entire life, and now like,
and they were saying like she didn't have her own style.
Yeah, she's like, you're shy. You're like scared when you know you can sing.
Oh, mercy, my goodness, darling.
That is a real Mindy Do fan right there.
You're so cute.
She's so
I'm begging you for mercy.
That's exactly how she'd sing it at karaoke if I invited her.
Melinda Doolittle.
So Melinda Doolittle, I would say her star-making performance was when she sang "My Funny Valentine." I think that was the song that everyone was like, "That
I remember."
You're so wild. It's so crazy to me that you remember this. Have you ever dreamed of dreams? Have you ever? Let me ask you this, Nate. Have you ever dreamed of having a dream?
I've had dreams where I woke up and I was like, "Oh my god, that was a crazy dream," and then I'm living my life, and then I wake up from that, and I was like, "Now wait a minute."
That's close to what I've had. Yeah.
I've had dreams where I've been asleep, and then but it's like I'm like viewing myself from above, but it's also not like I'm astral projecting. Like I'm fully.
You're like watching a TV. Yeah, you can watch a movie. Yeah.
Oh god. A therapist right now is being like, it's because you think you are really important and you like watching yourself.
Right.
Cool. Thanks.
I want to ask whoever wrote that song, why and how?
Why and what for? Cloud 5, whatever it was called.
Chamber 5.
He did not love. He did not love these Serta sheep.
Here's what I will say. He was like, it looks like you guys aren't enjoying it as much. Because they're not. Because they're performing it to you. You are the scariest person besides the vocal
right.
coach.
Beside Miss Girl.
Miss Girl, the vocal coach. That
showed up for one show.
She terrified me, girl. But they're terrified of you.
It triggered me back to like oral skills in college. AURAL, by the way, girls. Aural. And all of my vocal lessons. It was really scary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Son Sung-duk is very scary to me. The midterm that Flamon has, he's like, that was great. Hanbin. And then here's his note. Here's what he says. He says, Hanbin, the moves aren't cool enough. You're taking cool moves and you're making them not cool. That's not constructive. I don't even know. And he just kept kept repeating it. And I was like, I need you to explain more than that.
There's nothing objective in any of that.
It's very, how do I fold in the cheese? You just fold it in. It's very that energy.
Here's the thing
just fold it in.
Here's the thing with that criticism. The same. So when Hanbin has a little package later of like, I keep watching my practice videos. I need to keep working on this, and asks Niki for help. Niki explains it in terms that he understood. He was like, you're stopping yourself. Like your body, it looks like your movements kind of stop before it fully extends. Like he's like, you need to make it bigger, so it looks like it's going. Like because I could tell that's what Sung-duk was trying to say.
And I like say that.
Say what he was. Yeah.
Say the energy. You're saying like it's an energy thing. It feels like it's in here. Just like let it out because everyone else is letting it.
It was the same thing in Dive Into You. And oh God, that just pisses me off so much because it throws me back to the moment when I was watching the show. Like they gave the same comments to Hanbin during Dive Into You, which were not helpful. And they were like, yeah, it was fine, but like Hanbin, you're still not doing the thing. And it's like, okay, well then
what is it?
Tell me how to change the thing and maybe I can do it. And they just never helped out.
It's very my first acting 1 class where my professor was like, what are you fighting for? And I was
objectives.
Like, sorry, what are you talking about? Because I'd never heard of this before. And she was like, I mean, like, what are you fighting for? She just emphasized a different word. And I was like, ma'am, if I didn't get it the first time, you gotta refigure out how to explain it, girl.
We have to use the vocabulary, objectives, tactics. You know, what's your why? Yeah.
So this is what I think about Son Sung-duk, because I think this is like I don't know if he's going to be. I mean, he's in the next episode, obviously. I don't know if they're going to do a midterm or not. I don't really want to talk about him again, so I'm going to say it here. I think it's great that Jung Ho Sok was the dance captain for BTS, because I feel like he could probably receive those notes from Son Sung-duk and then actually explain them in a way that's like coherent.
I would like to thank Son Sung-duk for directing and giving choreography to BTS to make famous.
Yes,
sure.
I'd thank.
Here, I'm gonna clap like Bang PD.
I'm gonna clap like Nancy Pelosi. Okay.
I never thought I would watch so much footage of Bang PD clapping, but it's like ingrained in my head now. Him just doing this.
It is. Why?
Happy Buddha. Happy Buddha.
He's so
Happy Buddha.
He's so jolly looking.
I know.
And then when they cut to him, and it's always the last two, he's always like, "You just did a real shit job today. I appreciate all the work you're doing, but you really came out here and flopped. You flop ass. So good luck on future endeavors."
He really is K-pop Santa. You don't see him a lot, but when he shows up, he's like, "Here's a present," and gives you a new group.
Yeah, here's a new group. Here's the Seraphim.
Yeah. Oh, God bless. Okay. Yeah, I was over that. I hated that fucking Hanbin look cool shit. I was like, that's not a note, girl. What does that mean?
It means nothing. It means all nothing. Like synergy talk, right? We're using like
it's corporate
business,
talk. Yeah,
using business buzzwords.
Yes, he's like, we're gonna bubble up these comments.
We're gonna circle back.
We're gonna circle back to this, Hanbin. Shut up, girl.
They get to have fun in part 2. That's what we've enjoyed about part 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They get to clean the house to dynamite.
Listen, Mnet was just trying. Mnet was coming up with B-roll at this point. It was just like, we have to fill an hour and a half, so
clean the damn house.
Yeah.
Also,
do
like
the thing.
the conceit was that they all came up with this together. That they were like, we're gonna have a day where we clean the house. I was like, this group of 14 to 21-year-old boys did not choose to do this.
I'll tell you who chose it right now. Park Jung-sung, otherwise known as Jay. That man is a clean king. And
yeah, that's true.
A couple episodes ago was like, you guys are leaving towels around. Don't do that.
Slay.
Yeah. Yeah. We love a clean
I think
king.
while he was doling out those letters, he was like also picking up.
It's so funny because I think this may be the first time they washed their comforters because they were drying them all out.
Yeah.
I can't believe they got them white comfort. I couldn't believe some of them were still white.
Yeah,
with Cheeto puffs, and room. The top 1, 2, 3 room has their own snack fridge, girl.
Or the Taehyung comforter.
The Taehyung comforter is so
iconic.
Funny.
It's so good.
I will say I love that first room because there was that time when they were asking them Jay later, like, how do you like being in the top room? And they were like, it's a very popular room. And they showed that clip of everyone just hanging out. And Sunoo's like, that's my bed.
Yeah. What are you doing?
Get out.
Yeah. It's great. RJ, I can tell you right now, RJ's favorite moment of the show came up next. It was the phone calls.
Absolutely.
Me too.
So
Nate.
Here's what happened.
Here's what happened, Nate. Okay. They get announced, 1, 2, and 3 get announced that they get a phone call, and that 1 gets the most, and then 2, then 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Before, that's it. That's all they had said. And I looked at Adam and go, what if Sunoo ends up using one of those phone calls just to call Ichan, our beloved Ichan, just to kiki with the girls? Okay, Nate, that's it.
Literally this happened. It's the first time we've watched Iland that I was like, I wish we were doing a reaction to Iland.
and then that happened. And then all the boys come in, and then they're like, well, Sunoo's like, well, if you're going to call your parents one, and then your sister in one, then you have an extra call. And then they're like, let's call someone. And because they gave them the papers, and they call.
He calls J-Bomb.
They call our beloved Ichan. He doesn't pick up.
So funny.
And then he immediately calls back. That's right.
The FBI agent agrees. Our FBI agent is Ichan.
Ichan, we love you.
Ichan, we love you.
And they literally call. They literally call him. And Adam and I lost our mind.
Hitting each other.
We were like, I can't believe this actually.
The girlies love each other.
They felt like solidarity.
June.
Oh.
It felt like June. It's Pride Month.
We have started Pride Month, ladies and gentlemen.
Also, everybody was so excited to talk to Ichan too, which was so sweet.
Everyone was so excited.
Yes, people love that man.
I know. It's so great.
They were all so excited. They're like, J-Bomb Young. The fact that they chose him.
Right. Oh, it's bringing back so many old memories. I love the camaraderie between Sunoo and J-Bomb.
Absolutely.
And they have kept in touch so much.
Oh, girl.
So much. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that the day after Iland was over, Sunoo's like, no, I'm making a phone call.
Yeah.
I'm making that phone call.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think, too, there's a moment in that phone call where I think it's Sung-hoon or maybe heesung, where he's like, he's telling Sunoo that him and Ichan sound alike.
Yeah.
Yes,
and RJ and I were like,
I think it was either Jay or Sung-hoon. They're like, they sound exactly the same because they both, I think exasperated the same way.
Right.
And we were like, The gay gasp, you mean?
The sibilant ass.
The sibilant ass? Is that what you're referring to?
Oh my god, I love
It was so good. And even J-Bomb was like, "Oh yeah, you guys look so good on TV, blah 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 blah." And they were like, you don't have to talk like that because you know you're re-recorded." Just fun.
It was good. It was a fun moment.
Which makes me remember when J-Bomb was in Iland the first time, he made a point, remember, to say that. It's like, this is how I get to know people. And like, I want to spend the time to get to know you guys and hang out and like have fun too. And I'm glad that it has at least paid off for all of them, that they felt that way. You know?
Absolutely.
It's also very sweet. Sunoo also calls his older sister. Heesung calls his mom and his older brother. And then Jay calls his mom. And in that phone call with Jay and his mother, I was like, oh, the puzzle just pieced right together.
Yeah.
I could not. She was, neuroses. I'll just say that. I was like, my God.
She literally was like, "Oh, did you get voted off? Oh, I'm so sorry. Well, don't worry. Like, it's like, you're going to pick yourself back up. It's not the end of the world. You have so many fans that love you, blah, blah, blah." And he's like, "No, girl.
No, I made it.
I made it. I'm top 3. And she's like, "Oh, well, that's great. All of these fans love you, blah, 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 blah."
And I'm going to say this as affectionately and warmly, and I mean it with all sincerity, with all the love in my heart. Even Korean mothers can be Jewish mothers too. And that's important to remember.
There's unity.
There's unity.
Coexist.
Boys and their mothers.
Boys and their mothers. It is universal all the way.
Yeah.
Let's say that.
It's across around the globe.
Yeah.
Heesung's phone call with his brother, though, was extremely comedic.
Goofy.
Oh my gosh.
Loved it.
That's my favorite. I that lives rent free in my brain.
Yeah.
And then the way his mom was like, "If you ever feel down, just think about your brother cheering for you."
Heesung, it's so funny.
I thought I was gonna cry.
I know, he's like, "Just think about how your brother makes you laugh, and that'll help you through." I'm like, "Oh my God."
Heesung, I think, has cried, more than anyone else on the show. And it's funny that he is not the one that people it's the J meme of him crying that people remember.
But because Jay has the whole trajectory of like everything he does is so goofy now.
Yeah.
Oh, I also think that other people have had like more like traumatic and dramatic cries.
Right.
Yeah.
Heesung's have always been like very scattered and like evenly keeled.
Yes.
Nothing like extremely dramatic has happened with Heesung crying.
But like if he had his own like camera, like if this was like a show where everyone got their own camera constantly, like he's probably
a whole compilation clip.
Absolutely. He's probably crying like all the time.
Yeah.
Like in just moments where he just wants to be solemn. He probably is just crying.
It's
stoic tear.
I really like Heesung. I've always loved Heesung, but this show has really been like, oh, he's the girl.
Fun fact, I didn't.
Oh, really?
During Iland?
Fun fact, I was a little bit of a Heesung hater for a little while. And it was because...
I wouldn't say that's a fun fact.
No. So, and this will be my side tangent. So, I was really frustrated with Heesung because it seemed like everything came so easy to him, and he was like such an ace.
Totally.
And my favorite was Jay, and so I used to have very like strongly perceived dislikes towards Heesung because of the way that I thought that they were. But then when I realized like, oh, they're much more like brothers, and like this relationship is very much like older brother, younger brother, and like this is the situation, I was like, I just watched a microcosm of me and my siblings. And I was like, I am Heesung.
You figured
and that's when it clicked, and I was like, I'm Heesung.
I'm mad at myself. I've been mad at myself. The call was coming from
inside the house.
Yes.
Yeah.
You were reverse app voting for yourself.
So ever since, I've actually felt an extremely close bond with Heesung after Iland. So
yeah,
because I think Heesung exhibits the most passion, especially at the end when he cries about that, like, I
my
want to be
God.
a good idol, and if I don't do this concept well, that means I can't. Like, he's done this before. He almost debuted and he didn't. He knows.
This is what I was going to. RJ, I wrote down Heesung crying because it was in this moment where I realized, because he was crying again about Hanbin leaving.
Yes,
and
Right.
I of course think that they were all very close on the show at this point.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, I'm surprised he's crying this much
For
about
Hanbin,
Hanbin
yeah.
leaving. Like, I'm sure it was sad for everybody involved, but I was just surprised. And then that's when I was like, he went through this.
Yeah.
Where he
Right.
like thought he was going to debut and then didn't. Yeah. And so he knows more than anyone else here what it feels like to be so close that
And
you
then
can
be
taste it and then it taken away from you.
Right.
And he's probably, it is like sadness, of course, for that person, but it's also bringing up all those feelings of
Totally.
like, what if, like, this is also another thing where, like, yes, he feels very guaranteed at this point in the show, but there is no guarantees. That's the crazy
Right.
part about all of these survival shows. Oh, he's so warm. There's that, going back to your Jay versus Heesung thing, it's very funny because I thought when the show started that it was going to kind of set up a K versus Heesung thing.
Yes.
Right, because they're the older members.
Yeah,
and,
and they're both like super talented. Blah,
Right.
blah.
There was that moment when they were having pizza and they were playing the game of like, okay,
Yes,
vote
that's what
who
I
you
didn't
think
bring
is
up.
the funniest. And Jay thought he was gonna win. But they
Oh.
all voted for Heesung. And the thing is, he even says it on the talking head. That's the thing about Jay.
Yeah.
He'll admit it on a
Yes.
talking
Yeah.
head and be
Yes.
like, I thought they were all gonna pick me, but they all picked Heesung.
Yes.
Yeah. And they have ever since on every single variety clip video I've ever seen. They're all like, Heesung's the most funny. And Jay gets so bitter about it still because
That
Jay's
is so
the mood
funny.
maker.
Yes.
Jay's
Yes.
the mood maker. And
Totally.
mood makers sometimes get confused with the funniest, and they're not. They're just,
And they're not.
Yeah.
it's okay. It's okay, honey.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I'm the mood maker.
Yeah. Stay in your lane, girl. It's all good.
Stay in your damn lane.
Stay in your
RJ.
damn lane.
So Hanbin is going through it. He's like the only. He's not the only one they focus on in this little montage of their training, but I think he's the one that's most interesting because of where he ends up in the show.
This is very Drag Race editing, where it's like, you know, they're going to be the ones in trouble, so they're editing
Yes.
to show like
Here they're working hard.
they're working through it.
Yeah.
Right. We want the story.
He goes down. The worst part about Hanbin for this episode, in my opinion, is that the thing he needs to do in order to correct what they want to see him correct is he needs to be bigger, it needs to be more, it needs to be pushed out further.
Yeah.
And there is a moment where he's like watching Daniel
He's
practice
literally-
and he is retreating.
This is what he did.
into
I'm going to show
himself.
it.
Yes. Tighter. It's so
Wow.
sad because I was like watching it and I was like, oh, if you could see it, if you were a bird looking in, you'd be like, oh, this isn't helping, girl. They're getting ready for the show. There's a really funny moment where they have to put their badges away because they're obviously all going to change. Heesung goes back down and sits in PO1 in Sunoo's seat. And Sunoo walks up and goes, who is she?
Oh.
It's
And
so
if there was
good.
a moment where you didn't think that about him,
It's so
Throw it
good.
away.
It's so
throw it
good.
away.
And also, like, Heesung's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, he.
Yes, he's like, I really wasn't thinking. And Sunoo's like,
There is
Interesting.
not enough Heesung and
So
Sunoo interactions on this show.
Or
know.
in
just in
hypen.
general, yeah. But yeah, I will say though that Heesung, since Pretty You, has like that's why it's so satisfying that he doesn't kind of win this concept.
Right.
Because you can see that he really has been trying and enjoying himself. I think that's
Yeah.
been the biggest thing. He's really had so much fun doing this concept
Right.
that I think he realized, like, okay, I think I'm doing everything correctly, but for some reason I'm still not doing it right, and it's like hurt him so much.
I
Right.
think it's okay. Well, this perfectly leads us into, so we're now at the performances. So Cloud 5 goes first, whatever the hell the song is called. And in the feedback, I'd love to know. I think this song is great. I think it's fun. It's such a breath of fresh air from all the kind of similar concepts they've done on this show so
it's
far.
the most like musical theater song because they are literally
this is
like,
the pajama game, honey. Doris Day is on the stage and her name is Kim Sunoo.
Mama, it is Once Upon a Mattress, girl.
Yes.
Where's my pillow? I'm not going to grab my pillow, but you know, the pillowography. And
Yes. Throwing it all on heesung.
Throwing it all on heesung. So cute.
Nate, who is your high and who is your low in this performance?
The high is obviously Sunoo. The concept was made for him. Yeah. And honestly, if we're talking about like producer manipulation, they totally threw this in for Sunoo this week. Yeah. And he thrives on these bright concepts. Yeah. And so Sunoo showing face and giving it all and there's no crumbs. It's all devoured. It's really
so good. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that my low for Chamber 5, I probably have to give it to Sungwon. I think that the lack of time to rehearse played part of it. And for me, Sungwon in this episode struggled with showing that concept. Yeah, out of all of them. And that's there are others who I probably would have selected, but I think that because Sungwon had such a short time, I would choose him.
Yeah. RJ.
I will say I actually thought Sungwon did a great job. I could tell that he was actively deciding to be more smiley in order to cover that, like, he hasn't had the full time to learn the choreography.
Right.
And I could tell that this is like a new thing for him.
It's a very musical theater performance.
That I was like, I like that it's not his typical. Like, they even make fun of him in the training. It's like, this isn't Flame On anymore, girl. You don't have to go as sharp anymore. So it was so fun to watch him as smiley. But I mean, I agree. I think Sunoo was truly like the best. Like, it didn't even feel. And the fact that the producers all were like, you know what? He proved us wrong. This really is his thing. This is what he's going to do. Right. He's so good at. No one can come close to him doing this concept.
Well, who's your low then, RJ?
It's probably Jungwon. I think I do agree with the producers. Just because he did look really not nervous, but he looked the least like he was having the least amount of fun. Because even with Jake, I thought like Jake was still doing a really good job of
Jake is also really good in this.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I do think everyone is good. Like, everyone,
I mean, we are, of course, at this part of the show where like you are finding the little tiny
things.
Yeah. I had to really put on like drama teacher cap and go, okay, what can I objectively pull out and justify to you that I didn't care for it?
Right.
And it really wasn't much. Like, I love Chamber 5. I got slammed in the comments of our podcast for loving it. Because there were people like, I just didn't like it. I like the more dark concept. I'm like,
which is funny now because all of our comments last episode were all like, you're gonna love Chamber 5. Chamber 5 is the girl,
right?
But I think, it's our audience. But it's our audience.
Obviously, Sunoo was perfect. Jake, they were like, you did really great as well. But that really wasn't a surprise to me in the way that they were like, oh, it surprised us, the judges. I was like, I don't know why that's surprising to you because you had him do you had him do Crown.
I will say it's very interesting for the judges during or maybe it was just Sun Sung-duk, but Sun Sung-duk was very focused on like Jake's skill looks like it's lacking in the midterms because it's like now we're focused in on it. But then during the judging, it's like, Jake, you look like you belonged up there. Like,
maybe if they didn't get rid of Rain and Zico, they wouldn't have such freaking problems with their judges. Like, what do you like bringing in people who haven't been watching regularly? They don't have the full scope of the growth or the performances. You have people coming in. Yeah. They just weren't available for the second half. And that was the thing is like, there was almost a month between part 1 and part 2. And which that's another detail that a lot of people.
It was just 2 weeks.
No, it was almost a month. because they had a special episode in between that was the one chance that people like Hanbin and Daniel did get more screen time, because there was like a panel of like K-pop stars who were like analyzing all of the past like half of the season. And they were giving everybody screen time, everybody's getting talked about.
Nice.
And they were calling them by their titles, like, you know, Hidden Ace, or, you know, like the Mood Maker, or blah blah blah. And so there was a lot more there's a lot of work that
was doing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But the story was that Rain and Zico didn't come back for part 2 because they both had like business commitments.
Rain had to go tank a new debut group, and Zico had to be acquired by Hybe, basically. Because he had to, he made his own company, and then it's like a Hybe subsidiary. So it's like,
it's funny because the chat that was on the internet was they're going to be acquired by BigHit, because that's right around when they were starting to turn to Hybe.
Yeah, totally.
I don't agree with heesung. Because heesung was the center of the song, I thought it was fine how much he gave, because it still was grounded. It's like he needed to be the romantic lead, so then you could have the character actors of like Sunoo and Jake be like the little bit goofier ones,
because they're like the ones trying to convince you that like, look, like be in love or whatever.
But
we need to have the straight man.
Yes,
yeah.
But I did agree. I think Jungwon was the weakest for me, and maybe I was just suckered in by the specific moments that they featured him in the edit.
Yeah,
where it is like he's like, hey, and I was like, oh, okay.
But that's so Drag Race, right? Like they'll show like Mrs. Kasha Davis flubbing like the one line, and we're like, well, I mean, you showed me that she flubbed, so
well, and they refilm all the time, and they don't tell you. You learn these things after watching.
You don't know like what's making the final cut. Yeah,
after you've watched a few of these survival shows, you realize like they do multiple takes of these performances, and then take whichever one. It may not necessarily be the best. And that's another way that the producers do what they want. So
because the producers I think they are picking based on, for the most part, obviously, I think it's always, there's wiggle room. But I think for the most part, they are picking like what they actually are seeing in front of them and saying like, oh, this is the one that stood out as the best, and this is the one that stood out as the worst, and that's fine. And then it's the editor's job to go back and find the moments where it like fits the narrative that the producers have made by just the judging that they've done.
Yeah.
So when people get mad about like on Drag Race, and they get mad that like, oh,
editing or whatever,
it seemed like they only featured the lip syncer that was bad at the certain parts that they were bad.
But they're trying to match what the judges are saying with the with like footage that they have. So it's almost like backwards.
You're supposed to come to the same conclusion as the judges.
Yes,
you as the audience member are supposed to be like, oh, I see why they made that decision.
Yeah,
You're not supposed to watch and be like, well, the judge is wrong, because then it's like, then the whole concept is in question.
You don't believe the show. Yeah.
Right. Reality TV.
I know we hate it, but we love it.
Flame on.
Can't stop.
Flame on. Flame on.
Flame on. So they're like, everybody, so good. What a slay. Hanbin, why were you bad? That was the general take. And I'm so happy that he was able to stand there and smile and take the criticism.
I was so upset the entire time for him.
It does feel like he is being like scourged. Like he is like taking hit after hit all episode.
And for what?
And for what? There's like,
because he's Vietnamese. Let's just say it.
Here's the thing. Okay, here's the thing with the Hanbin of it all. They are judging him and saying things like, you're going back to your bad habits. You're singing like you were before. We as audience members have no idea what you're talking about, because you spent no time showing us his growth of like, he started from a very amateur, street busker style, and then we got him to like this training. like I could see, like I'm putting the pieces together because you didn't show me. Like I'm sure that's why you put him in ground. I'm sure that's like the thing that carried over him a lot. That when he finally got to Iland, it's like now is your chance to like show that you know, like, but we don't know because
But the problem is like you have to then agree with the first decision that he went to ground was correct, which means you have to agree with the boys.
Right.
And from that episode, I was like, oh, he should not have gone to ground. He was very good. I thought he was great in his audition performance.
Yeah.
So from the get-go, I was already like, there's something weird going on.
Yeah.
Well, and the only time that Hanbin was ever in the bottom was when it was up to the producers.
Yeah.
In the popular vote, and like I said at the beginning of the episode, like Hanbin was a lot of people's one pick. Like the numbers aren't numbering. Like why, and you'll see it in the next episode, like why did Hanbin take such a big blow? There's no way.
This was what I was afraid of in part 2 of like, because they split the power between the globals and the producers, I was like, are they going to go out of their way and knock someone off that's really popular?
Right.
And they do.
Yeah. I was just looking over those polls again, just for like my own refreshing. And when I was looking over it, I was like, over 70% said that they were voting for Hanbin. And at this point in the voting, it was a 1 pick or a 2 pick.
It was
like
2,
that's,
and they had in 2 now as well. Yeah.
Yep. It was a 2 pick for this and then a 1 for the finale. And it was like, if he was everybody's 1 pick, what happened?
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of it was like the end of the show, like statistics where they're like, okay, you know, here's where they're at in placings. And I don't think that they gave Korean voters like an extra
the double votes or
boost.
Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
which I think is just
that was the Fantasy Boys thing. It's like if you vote,
Girl.
if you're a Singular or AT&T, you get double votes.
Singular. Centennial Wireless.
Yeah, if you're Centennial Wireless, you get double votes.
Well, and it's dumb because if you're going to tout your group as a global group, then like let's make sure that the voting's equal.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't.
And that is something that like even today, like current groups right now, that's still something that a lot of these management groups, like they want the benefits of having a global group, but there are just these small things like, I don't know, putting subtitles on the episodes, Weverse. That like, if you want me to be a global,
explain to me why I paid literal money for Iland on Weverse, and I've had to watch 3 episodes now on YouTube because there's no subs. And I don't know.
Are you sure that there were no subs?
Okay, so we watch it on our Samsung TV. So first of all, Samsung.
Okay,
it should be working perfectly.
It should be working perfectly.
I did not check to see if it was going to play on the computer correctly, but I'm also not going to watch a show on my computer. I'm sorry.
No.
And Weverse is so crazy about streaming from one device to another.
Yes, it won't let me
Yeah,
cast.
they don't. No casting.
No casting, girl.
No.
No, not that.
Yep. They said first year Hogwarts, no casting. Okay.
Yeah. Oh. Okay. So anyway, I don't appreciate that, Miss Weverse. I want to say that. Okay. Here's my take about this performance.
Okay.
Of Flame On. I think the best is K. Okay? I'm going to say that. I think K is great. I think K's redemption in this episode is so good. It's one of my favorites I think I've ever seen in any reality TV show ever, where he literally had the problem and then he gets to do the exact same performance by being a leader again that he had the issue with, and now he's learned and he's able to actually show his growth in a way that sometimes it's more that they like have to figure out if in other ways has he learned his lesson. But like this is it's 1-to-1. He was leader, it did not go well. It was leader, it went great.
Yeah.
And it works. It's so good. The narrative is narrativing.
Yeah.
Now what'd you think of the song?
Girl. What is this chorus? I don't like choruses when they just like start talking. And I'll be honest, I'll be the first one to say, bite me.
Bite me.
Took a minute to grow.
Took a minute to grow. Okay.
Same.
Because I appreciate the groups that is their sound, where they like talk on rhythm, which is fine.
Sure.
ATEEZ does it a lot too.
Sure.
Like, yeah, just like very heavier. Oh yes, ATEEZ, FBI is ATEEZ.
Our FBI agent is 18.
Echan said yes, ATEEZ.
Yes.
It doesn't. I think K is great in this song. I think he is a slay. I do think Hanbin is the weakest. I don't think they're wrong in who is perceived as the weakest. I think this group more than the other group is more even across all the members.
Yeah.
Totally.
Because they don't have like Sunoo. Like K I think is the best, but like he's pretty even compared to the rest of them. Sunoo is so leaps and bounds ahead that it's like there's such a different distinction.
I think Niki did the best in this number. I thought
Niki's so good.
Does so good in this. Like he really is like dancing leaps and bounds more than everyone.
So
they just had a trauma like
yeah no I had like a brain blast like Jimmy Neutron. So talking about Hanbin, I have a very it's not controversial, but I don't want anybody to take it the wrong way. I don't think that Hanbin is hybe. And at the time, I didn't see that. But when I did see it was when Hanbin was doing his solo performance for, I think it was
the New Year's
Eve.
Eve.
Weavers Con? Yeah, that's right. It was the first New Year's Eve concert that Hybe did. I love him, and the performance was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
He did a solo performance?
Iland.
As a trainee.
Yes, as a trainee for Hybe to open the New Year's Eve. He was the first performer, and he was opening for the entire Hybe New Year's Eve celebration. And they made him do.
He played the ball. He dropped.
I think it was "I Incredible" that they made him do, which we all know is not a great song.
Adam loves that song. Yeah.
And it just wasn't right. And I kept thinking to myself, "Good Lord, Hybe, just let him be free. Like." This guy needs to go to a different agency and find the right lane because he's perfect. He's wonderful. And I'm so glad that he's in Tempest. He belongs there.
Hybe could have made like a wavy type group with Hanbin and like other C idols, a Chinese idol.
Turn off this episode and go stream all of Wavy's music. It's so good.
Like they could have easily made a wavy group of like, let's capitalize like Chinese, Southeast Asian markets, have the resources to do it. And it's just that thing of, that's when I feel the boardroom of like, you need to prove to me that this market will put out before we invest.
Right. Well, and I have friends in Korea that are a certain way about other Southeast Asian people.
Yes.
And it's
shocking.
We could talk about colorism all we want and all those kind of things, but like
I think you and me
I think
specifically
you two, and
are
let me be silent and take it in. And
white gay men.
Yes. It just, you feel that. Obviously, they're not outwardly saying it or like portraying it in that way, but you can't help but see the optics and you can't help feel that.
Right.
Because I knew that I was telling Adam, like, Hanbin, like, after the show, like, he, as a trainee, had like a fan con and everything too, right? Like, they like basically kind of treated him as almost like a little like golden trainee.
Solo artist.
Yeah, like, let's wait until he debuts, and then he didn't. And like,
you got let go.
And then immediately signed to Yewa the next day. He was
he had a Twitter account. Hanbin had his own trainee Twitter account through Hybe. I'd never seen anything like that in my entire life. And they did it for Hanbin. And I knew that somebody at Hybe was trying to make it work. And you know, and God bless them.
They did this for trainee A too, that like little trainee group. And then they disappeared. It didn't happen. But like they had
I think when they stray from what they know how to do, it doesn't go well.
It scares a lot. It feels like it scares a lot of people in hybe when they do it, that they're already hesitant about doing it. So it's almost like they're self-fulfilling a prophecy that's not going to work.
I mean, I don't even think it's hype specifically. I think it's like a lot of once you start, it feels like it's like, especially like the trainees who aren't really contracted in the same way that like a person in a group
they are
is.
They are like you are.
But bring it back to Iland though. If you bring it back to Iland,
should we?
Well,
we're all avoiding talking about Hanbin getting voted up. It's so.
If we to bring it back to hybe really quick and maybe back on track, the hybe, all their groups, BTS, TXT, Boy Next Door, all the boy groups that I know of, they're all created behind the scenes, all through hybe system.
Yep.
They are hand chosen, and they go through media training and all this kind of stuff, and they are a perfect package. And the one off was Iland and enhypen.
Yeah.
And who has the most trouble on social media and with the fans and all the situations? It's always enhypen. And because of that.
It's the first time that, because the fans got to be a part of the creation, we are looking at it from a lens farther. Like, we know hybe as it is now. Hybe is not BigHit. When this show, like, the company has changed so much since
even
this
from
show first came
2020
out.
to 20 now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a completely different
completely
company.
different. So it's like crazy to just think about the stakes that I feel like were put into the show and into this group, and how it has manifested through time.
Yeah, agreed.
So anyway,
so who is your weakest in Flameon?
Unfortunately, I agree. I think I would also put in Daniel in there because he didn't seem like he stood out.
He didn't stand out, yeah.
I was going to say Daniel as well. Mostly because I had so much personal stock in both Daniel and Hanbin.
Truly.
But I felt like Hanbin had really stepped up to the plate, whereas Daniel had just maintained.
Yes.
And I love the boy, and I hope that he debuts in this Pledis group. Please, Jesus, if you're real, for Christmas, that's what I want. I want a Daniel debutation, but I really think that Hanbin worked his ass off this week.
He did,
and yeah.
And I just wish I knew what they were talking about. Of like, you went back to your bad habits. I'm like,
what bad habits?
It's crazy because he's gotten we have not seen him get.
Not seen any?
There was a week where they didn't even show the critique he got because they were like,
because it wasn't.
He's inconsequential.
Yeah. Same. Well, and they say things about trainees all the time where you're like, there's no grounds for it. Like, even the first episode with Kay, and all of the producers are watching the audition, and Bang Si-hyuk is like, oh, well, I know that Kay can do better. Like, obviously he looked kind of tight today and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I don't have any basis to grade that.
Yeah.
I don't know what Kay does.
Yeah.
So they do that kind of stuff all the time with the show, and it's probably my biggest gripe.
Yeah. We just have to
no vocal coaching, like, anywhere shown.
Well, that was the other thing, was they harp on Hanbin's vocals during the song, and I could hear, if you go back, it's so clear that those are his raw mic'd vocals, whereas you can definitely tell
some other people had
sweeteners added, colored in.
I agree.
Here's what I want to say. Here's what this leads me into before we get into the scoring. This is not the first time that I've realized that there's been no women on the show, except for the one time a woman showed up.
The vocal coach?
The vocal coach, the one time.
Yeah.
But it's the first time that I was like, the biggest demographic of boy groups specifically is women. And I love that they had the episode where all the fans got to write in and send in videos, and they got to be seen, and you got to see how much these boys mean to so many people, so many women and young girls. It's great. It's great.
Yeah.
It is weird to me.
Say it.
That men run everything. And I just wish there was like one woman to be like, I think there's a really, especially when they do the darker concept stuff, I wish there was someone in the room to be like, you guys are so focused on the weirdest aspect of it looking strong. And I don't think that's what people at the end of the day care about with this performance.
For that dark concept.
Right.
It's obviously the mystery. It's the like brooding.
The Zayn Malik might you say.
Yeah.
Hello.
Here's the thing that okay, not to bring up Fantasy Boys, but what I did like about Fantasy Boys was they had Soyeon from G-Idol be one of the producers.
And Soyeon was amazing.
She was great.
She has like a really good eye.
She has a really good eye. She was giving like very constructive to the point where she was like, I'm going to break Hazel. Like, I'm going to tell him like it is. You know, like I just wish that they felt comfortable enough to bring someone like a female idol just to give like, just to give
a different perspective.
Yeah. And it just felt, there was a moment where it was like during the critiques, and I think there was also like, there's a level with the staging of this that I kind of saw for the first time where they're performing below, the judges are raised above, and it's almost like Gladiator.
It's very Gladiator
kind
style.
of like looking down
so
in the Coliseum. It's crazy. And I'm sure part of it was like COVID was happening, and we were like, how far apart does anyone need to be from anybody else? Who knows?
Protect Bang PD at all costs.
So I do get that to some extent, but it's just there was a bit of the scene in Barbie when they go into the boardroom at Mattel and it's all men deciding like what little girls like.
Right.
And I was like, it's the exact same thing that literally is satirized in the movie that was the biggest moneymaker this year.
Right.
But like no one is. Wait, hello.
It's not clicking really.
Nothing. And they say they know their audience. They say that they care about the fans, but there was no female representation on the show. I think that there might have been one other female during the
there was
improv
that
dance battle.
Yes, one of the dancers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
one of the choreographers. Yes.
Right. Yeah. But again, like 2 the entire time, and I'm sure that there were some behind the scenes, but like, why are they on camera?
Right.
And as 3 men, I'm glad that we
figured it out. We solved it.
We've had so many great conversations about what the world needs.
Have solved women.
We've solved it.
We've solved it.
Here's how the scores break down. In first place, with 92 points.
Yeah.
K.
I mean, I think the leadership did a lot here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Second place, 87 points. First time with a badge, our beloved Niki.
Yeah.
And he is overjoyed. In third place, 86 points. The one, the only, Kim Sunoo.
Yeah.
Which is the highest it's been from a producer pick.
From a producer.
She was gooped and gagged.
So just remember this, that the first producer pick was K and the third producer pick was Sunoo. Just heading into next week. Just remember that lineup. Fourth with 83 points is heesung, which is his lowest score. He's falling. He's going down. He's going down in flames. It's really, I mean, we said it earlier. It's very nice to see. I don't think he needed to, but it is nice to see him be this vulnerable and like admit that he like is aware of like when he's not doing great or not doing up to I think his own standards even.
Right.
I still thought he did good in the song, but it's nice to see him be this kind of forlorn about it, I guess. And everyone is like weeping for him as well.
Well, and he's being very reflective. It's like, you know, as artists, it's important to be reflective.
Totally. And I did like that he was like, it's important for idols to be able to do this concept. We should not be only having to do, we should be able to do a myriad of concepts, not just we can do the hard stuff.
And that's right.
And correct. We should only be doing the soft stuff. And we are in agreement.
And that's we agree with
we
you.
We would agree with what you were saying there. Okay. Fifth, 81 points, Sunghoon. Great. Slay. Sixth with 79 points. We're now going to go 4 in a row, all one point away from each other. 79 points. Jay, 6th place. He won't get out of 6th. He's stuck in 6th. Sunghoon is stuck in 5th. 7th, 78 points is Jake. And that rounds up your enhypen. They debut this episode. That's your enhypen.
Right.
8th, 77 points, Daniel. 9th with 76 points is Jungwon, obviously. And 10th with 72 points is Hanbin. We don't know the rubrics. We don't know the metrics. We don't have the data. These are just numbers. These are just arbitrary numbers that mean nothing. I'm sure there was kind of some individual scorecards they had, and they tabulated them to some degree in some capacity.
Who even knows?
I refuse to believe that 4 of them got in a row. 4 in a row like that. That's wild. But
yeah,
Hanbin goes home.
Listen, if there's one thing I've learned at grad school becoming a teacher is you should always attach a rubric to the score. I mean, how else is anybody going to know and be transparent? I don't know what you're scoring on.
Yeah.
Hanbin wasn't apparently cool. Whatever.
What does that mean?
What does that mean?
Those aren't words.
I have 2
Those
middle
aren't
fingers
words.
for that. Yeah.
So that's
That's
it.
episode
And everyone
is ruined
by this information. And I think they would have been ruined either way.
Even if it was Jungwon I really think because they know that this is the last one going into the finale, they are just heartbroken.
Yeah.
And it's very endearing. Honestly, it was very endearing to watch Jungwon cry. Like, you could tell once Daniel was safe, Jungwon was convinced that he was going home. He had already resigned himself to be the eliminated person.
Yeah.
Right.
And it is nice to see him be really vulnerable in that way.
Yeah.
But he got to stay.
He got to stay.
Yeah.
And boy does he.
Yeah. Pulls a 180 out.
Yeah.
In the next one.
Yep.
Reliving all of it again. It's just wonderful. I wanted to show the Snapchat that I showed you guys. Oh my God. The audience has to see because I said God is pissed that Hanbin got eliminated. Look, there's lightning in the background. There's thunder in the background. You'll see it. Oh, boom. There you go. God was so pissed.
That was
from 2020.
That was your original. What day in 2020?
September something 2020. It's not giving me the date, but it was,
Wow.
It was wild.
What were we doing in September 2020? I think that was when I found out that I
had been laid off.
So I was pissed. I was also crying. Me and heesung, girl.
Hanbin got laid off. You got laid off, girl. It was a season.
The SEAs were going down, honey.
Yes. Bad day for
That's
SEAs.
So sad.
Okay, Nate. We are about to walk into the finale of Iland. Do you have any sage?
We're putting on our fencing outfit, our quilted fencing outfits.
We're gonna buy fencing outfits.
We're not buying fencing outfits. They're
Thank
so
God.
expensive.
Yeah,
they are. But I think that they made these by hand. They're not real ones.
Oh yeah. They're like
haute
couture.
Yeah.
They're Prada.
As an elderly Eggie, what sage advice do you have for us as we walk into the finale of Iland?
Snacks and water are required.
Sure. Stay hydrated.
Tissues required. I would say blanket also.
Cozy.
And I think that the really important thing, like mentally, to go into the finale with is there's a lot of emotions that are going on. It's all hyped up because it's live. Sure. It was a live broadcast. And be prepared for great performances. The performances are wonderful. Merciful darling. Mercy wants to be part of the episode too.
Mercy, what should we look out for? Mercy.
Who's Mercy's
Mercy's one pick?
Mercy's PO1 is Jake because Jake is such a big dog person.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, her one pick is actually Layla, his dog.
Yes.
Yeah, Layla.
I love when people say they want to be Layla's mom. It's so funny.
I mean, last words. You'll see a lot of shoulder rubbing by Bong Shi-hyuk, which is really weird. Be prepared for a lackluster BTS and TXT. They were obviously contractually required to be there.
I've seen the clips of Bangtan, and they are like,
Isn't this the one where Taeyoung is like bored out of his mind?
Jimin, I remember Jimin looking very bored.
Yeah, Jimin is bored, and he's got the big sunglasses to kind of hide it, or try to hide it. But you see J-Hope into it.
Of course.
Because that man watched all of this thing.
Oh my God, I pictured J-Hope with the pickets, just like...
I imagine J-Hope as like the future chairman of Hybe.
Who do you think J-Hope was? Who do you think his one pick
Taki,
was?
absolutely.
No, his one pick.
Yeah,
his one pick.
I was gonna say I think
he was voting for
Taki.
that
I think that J-Hope after Taki got voted off, his one pick was Niki.
Game's his game.
Sure.
Yeah,
he would respect. Yeah, the full respect of how good. Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. But I do remember that my one pick was Jay. Mm-hmm. I do remember the really late night because it started at like 2 or 3 a.m. Pacific, and then Crystal didn't actually even wake up for it. She's like, "Bitch, I'll see you in the morning." So I watched it by myself, and then we rewatched it later that day. We spent all day, and I mean, it's not a spoiler that K gets eliminated, but when
he's not an enhypen.
That's not K the entire time?
Yeah.
When we saw him in concert.
But Crystal was beside herself. So we had a really long day of crying and brunch. Wow. But yeah. And all the boys come back. All the Iland boys come back.
Oh,
and good. Yeah, I like when they do that. That's great.
Our beloved Ichan.
And they cheer and it's really sweet. So enjoy, again, boys.
Thank you so much, Nate.
I will be rewatching episode 12 of my own volition. So
wow, God
it's going to be exciting.
God bless you.
Girl. Oh, I'll be skipping a lot, but I know the parts that I want to rewatch.
Is it the classic? This person.
Oh Lord, skip all that. One more thing. They have a woman host, and she goes over the voting data. So like where the person got the most votes from, and she interviews live audience. So they had a Zoom audience for the program.
Okay. I was like a live audience. Okay.
Sorry, it was COVID. It was a Zoom audience. Yeah. But she interviews people on Zoom. So
I mean, it is crazy when enhypen talks about the fact that they like didn't perform for people for like
years.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nate.
Thank you.
Discovering voices, building worlds. The Ampliverse.